Hi, folks. Welcome to Half and Half this morning. Good to be back this Saturday. Last Saturday, I was off being a commencement marshal, which sounds very fancy, at the UW's graduation. So Scott had you all to himself, so I'm happy to be back with you. We are heading out to Colorado right after we do this class. We put their cats in their sleepy pods and we get in the Tesla and we drive to Colorado with all our food from our share. We're some sort of stereotype. I don't know what it is, but it's some very specific something that we are. Um, but yeah, we're just gonna move around, right? Just kind of get the juices flowing a little bit before we go. So we're gonna jump right in. Let's start on your back. And settle in, knees bent, feet flat, shoulder blades on the floor. Heavy head, heavy pelvis. Just let your body sink a little bit and feel how the breath creates a float. So the weight of the bones dropping into the floor. And then the breath becomes a lightness that floats your body expansively up. And exhaling lets your body sink a little bit more. I'm not doing a big belly breath, but I feel how my chest floats up and how my belly floats up a little bit as I inhale. And then as I exhale, it all just kind of settles a little more. We're often walking around with so much tension in the neck, so much tension in the back, maybe the hips, just things we don't necessarily feel, but are just underlying a little uncomfortable. So, this moment right here at the beginning of class, at the end of class, whenever it is, of just letting any excess tension come to the surface and then release. Really grounding practice sets you up well to start working out, to start moving. So we'll take another minute just letting things settle. And then taking your arms up to the ceiling, hands in line with your shoulders. And then a similar opposition, like the fingers are being drawn up to the ceiling, the arms are floating up to the ceiling. At the same time, there's a sense of weight in your arms, right? Not like tensely reaching them up, but feeling a float, a lift, and at the same time, a relaxation in your shoulders and your chest. Still a sense of the bones there. I'm going to start tiny little circles with your arms. So they move in towards each other and out and away from each other. With that same idea, they're floating up, but the shoulders, the chest are really relaxed to make the circle. Almost like something else is moving your arms instead of your muscles, like a breeze came by and your arms just started floating. And then the breeze changes its direction and they circle the other way. Neck can stay relaxed, chest can stay relaxed, pelvis relaxed, cat on your stomach relaxed. You have one of those. And then settling your arms back in center. And then we'll take a bigger movement, exhaling, letting the arms float up and overhead towards the floor. And as you do that, notice your rib cage. Just think of the rib cage staying in place, not tipping up and down as your arms move, but instead you leave your rib cage in place And you let your shoulders make a movement. So the shoulders float up, and the fingers float back. The ribs can stay where they are. Moving back and forth a few times. That same quality of ease in your movement. And then we're going to turn this into a bigger circle. So you're going to float your arms up and back overhead, ribs stay heavy. Keep the arms a little off the floor. You're always holding them a little off the floor. Float them out to the side, like a big T shape, still off the floor. Float them down by your sides, by your hips, and then back up to the ceiling. And exhale, arms float up and overhead. Keep them even up to a foot off the floor. It's a lot of work holding the arms a little bit off the floor. And we're getting a cat convention in here. We might have to do something about this. Speaking of stereotypical archetypes or cat craziness. One more time, taking the circle up to the ceiling, overhead a little off the floor, out to the side a little off the floor. And then this time as they come down by your side, let them just settle into the floor, however is comfortable. Palms down, palms up. Just let your arms rest for a little bit. And then take a couple breaths focusing specifically on your rib cage now. We did all that opening through the chest and the shoulders. How does the breath move through the ribs? So the lower back ribs, the upper back, in between the shoulder blades, the armpit ribs, the ribs under the collarbones, down low by your waist. Just a sense of easy flow through all the ribs as you inhale and exhale. And then next time you exhale, a little more specifically sending your energy down to your lower abdominals, down in your pelvis. Lower belly drawing in, ribs relaxed. Almost starts at knee folds. Right leg floats up, knee over hip. Exhale, foot down. And then left leg floats up, knee over hip. A little bit of support from your lower abdominals as you go. Inhale, one leg floats up. Exhale, little deeper support in your belly, not tightening your chest. And then we're going to add one arm to it. So we're going to take your opposite arm as your right leg comes up, your left arm comes up and all the way overhead. Simple movement. It's not muscularly very necessarily challenging, just kind of a sense of ease and coordination. Left leg, right arm, and exhale back down. And right leg, left arm, keeping your pelvis steady, keeping your ribs steady. So that starts our core Pilates work. Pelvis doesn't move, ribs don't move, just the arm and the leg. Last time. And then taking your arms out to the side, up overhead. So we kind of reverse that circle. This time as your arms go up to the ceiling, you're going to bring your head up, looking into your belly or into the eyes of the cat sitting on your belly if you have one of those. So head is up, reaching forward. Pelvis is still grounded. We'll take the legs up into tabletop and start with 100. Inhale and exhale. Breathing in 5 and exhaling 5. Inhale and heavy pelvis. Exhale. Every time you exhale, feeling the ribs, the chest soften. Breathing in through your back ribs. 3 more. And last one. Knees into your chest, rest your head, and bring yourself up to sitting. And we'll take one leg out, left leg straight out, right knee bent. Round spine. So we spent all that time dedicated to feeling the pelvis, the ribs, the neck, all that stuff. So feel all that as you round your spine. Pelvis curls under, lower back opens, chest softens, easy neck. It's not hanging the head forward, but just kind of gently taking your gaze down. And then holding the back of your right leg, elbows wide. And send some breath into your back ribs again. Back of the lungs, like the back of the lungs could open. Get those a little juicy. Next inhale, starting to tip backwards, rolling back, however far you like to do this exercise. So maybe halfway down, maybe all the way down. Inhale to start up again, opening the back. Exhale. Chest softens, belly in. Leg pushes forward to roll you back to sitting. Staying round the whole time. Inhale to start. Exhale, easy movement down. And one more on this leg. And then right away, reaching your opposite leg forward, your right leg forward, left knee bent. Take a moment and sit up tall and just feel the length of your spine that way. And then this nice long spine, it doesn't have to collapse to round, right? So still long. And then just like a puff of air came into you and you rounded your spine, but not necessarily sinking. Easy neck, low belly, soft chest, wide elbows. Relaxing the right leg on the floor as you start back. And then starting up with an inhale. Feel how the pelvis wants to lift up. Can you feel your heavy bones? Can you open your back ribs? And then exhale from your belly. A lot of the difficulty in this exercise is not letting go through the back. There's a lot of different things that can happen, but it's about certain things needing to kind of back off. It's often not that we're not strong enough. One more time. And then both legs out in front of you, flexing your feet, round your spine, roll back all the way to your back, one vertebra at a time. Take your arms up overhead and then down around by your side and palms down to the floor. We're going to go right into single leg circles. Floating one leg in, extend it up towards the ceiling, kind of soft bend in the knee, just like you did with your arms earlier. Let your pelvis be heavy. Even though the leg's floating up, there's a sense of weight down. Take your hands on your hips, on your pelvis, and really feel as you take your leg across, your pelvis doesn't move across. So I have my right leg up. As my right leg moves over to the left, my pelvis wants to move over to the left. So don't let the pelvis move. Keep it really in place. And then as my leg opens to the right, my pelvis wants to move to the right. Keep it really in place. using the lower abdominals. And if you can't do it, make your circle smaller. Find the size of the circle that lets you keep your pelvis steady. And reverse it. Two more. And take that leg down. And take the opposite leg in, knee over hip. Pelvis stays steady. Extend the leg up. Put your hands on your pelvis. Give yourself a real sense of where that is, how that feels. Start your circles with your hands there. And really be diligent, really be nitpicky about not letting the pelvis move. And can you feel your abdominal muscles right under your hands as what keeps the pelvis in place? And if you need to make your circle smaller to do it, make it super small. Really feel it from the belly. One more. And then reverse it. Open first, and then across to the right and up. And is your back coming on or your hips coming on? You're not alone, I'm sure. But maybe just turn them off a little bit. Maybe don't let them work quite as hard. See if you can dial it back in your hips and your back. And really find it in your deep abdominals. One more. And then as you bend the knee, you're going to use that to roll up to sitting. All right, so let's take a little rolling like a ball variations. So knees bent, heels together, toes apart. Hands can be on your knees or hands can be on your ankles. Or legs could be more open and hands can be on the backs of your legs. Simplest if your back is tight. Medium if your back or your hips are tight. Most challenging if your backs and your hips are tight. So find the one that allows you to do the exercise well. So that nice, long, round spine, soft chest, belly in. Find a balance with the feet off, keeping that round spine position. We're going to start with the rocking chair version, where you just curl your hips under a little. It tips you a little back, but you don't fall. And then you send the soles of your feet towards the floor, staying around, it tips you forward. So really starting from really low in the belly, like the pelvis just does a little tip backwards. I call it rocking chair. I always imagine a rocking chair on a porch in the South. And then just like a little breeze comes by. Like there's no breeze, it's just sitting there. And then you finally get a little breeze and it just tips the rocking chair backwards. It gets a little rocking back and forth. From your belly's the breeze. Now you can stay with that version, that rocking chair version, or you can add on the full rolling like a ball, but you still start with the breeze, that just little curl under, and then you just keep going. Trying to keep the distance between your heels and your sits bones the same the whole time. Using your belly as you come up, as you get farther and farther up so that you don't go too far. You draw the belly in to control it. One more. And then relaxing. All right, we're going to go back onto your back. Medium check-in like we did at the beginning. Settle your pelvis, settle your hips, settle your feet. Feel your shoulders and your head. My shoulders feel a little wider now than when I started. My pelvis doesn't necessarily feel as heavy, but at the same time, it almost feels heavier. I can't really tell. It's like the muscles around it have activated, so it feels like it has some energy, but it also feels really solid in the mat. Just taking a moment and noticing that. And then we're going to take that knee fold movement again, one leg in, find your abdominals, take the other leg in, and bring your legs together. So you don't have your knees super close to your chest. You want to hold them from your belly and bring them together as best you can. Now, softening the ribs, softening the chest, bring your head up, reach your hands forward to your shins, wherever they fall, your knees, your shins, your ankles. We're going to send one leg out and forward off the floor. So holding that leg straight out and bringing the other knee in a little closer, and then switching the knees in this position. Reaching out, inhale, and exhale. And switch twice on the inhale, switch twice on the exhale. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Exhale one more time. And both knees come back in. Lower your head down. Lower your feet down. Let everything reset. You're going to take your arms up to the ceiling. Float them back overhead like we did earlier. Ribs stay heavy. And then bend your elbows and take your hands behind your head. So my elbows stay lifted off the floor, hands behind the head. And already, like when I did that, my head just wanted to relax and my neck wanted to relax a little more. So take a moment, feel that weight of your head in your hands, neck easy, elbows a little lifted, shoulder blades wide. And then see if you can keep that feeling as your head comes off the floor, upper back comes off the floor, looking into your belly. I'm going to hold this position here. Already, this is a lot of work in my belly. Really bringing the head and the shoulders up so I can feel my abdominals holding me. Makes it actually a little easier to get my legs off the floor. And then I'm going to float them up to the ceiling in a V shape. So head stays a little lifted, legs lower towards the floor a little, and then back up to the ceiling. And inhale, they lower a little down, and exhale, they lift. I'm going to keep the head lifted the whole time. 2 more. Last one. And then rest everything down. Feet back on the mat. Take a couple breaths. And then however you like, find a way up to sitting. We're going to flip over all the way onto your hands and knees. Hands a little in front of your shoulders. And knees right under your hips. So we're going to start moving the spine, kind of like we did at the beginning with the arms and the legs, just kind of that sense of a floating, easeful movement. We're going to take sort of a cat position, rounding the spine, drawing the belly in, softening the chest. Push your hands just a little bit to feel that. And then instead of going the other direction right away, you're going to start to move forward, sending your pelvis forward and unroll your spine to open your chest so you end up in an arched position, a swan position. And then we're going to reverse the other way, dropping your head down, let your upper back open, let your ribs lift, your belly lift. Push back till you're on hands and knees again in that cat round spine position, and then return to neutral. Maybe you followed that while you were doing it, but maybe you just want to watch if you did not follow that. So pressing your hands round your spine, open your back, let the pelvis start to move forward, That starts to open the hips, and then it starts to open the lower back, and you let that ripple all the way through, letting the chest open. And then you reverse that head, and then I have to really think upper back, and then mid back, and then I keep the pelvis really round, and back to neutral. One more of these. Exhale, rounding, and forward. Inhale. And exhale, rounding again. And then all the way back into child's pose. And rolling up to sitting. I'm going to take some work on your side. So you can mirror me. I'll be on my left, you'll be on your left side if you're a mirror image of me. And then feet a little in front of your hips. So if you're on a yoga mat, you can think line your body up with the back edge of the mat and take your feet to the front edge of the mat. But you might just be on carpet in your house or something like that. So just create an angle of the feet forward from the pelvis, and then a straight line from your head all the way down to your pelvis. And very often the pelvis will pull too far forward, right? Make sure the pelvis is part of the spine, the line of the spine, not the pushed forward feeling in the legs, right? Legs forward, pelvis in line with the spine there. And then the arm can be straight out, head resting on the arm. You're going to lift the underneath rib, the left rib a little bit. Think of it reaching towards the waist. Think of the waist floating up off the mat a little. You're going to take the right hand on the floor, right leg a little lifted, hip distance apart with the legs, and you go forward with your leg, leaving your pelvis in place. And then back with your leg, leaving your pelvis in place. Inhale forward and exhale back. So there is that tendency here too, as the leg goes forward, for the pelvis to want to go with the leg, and it moves my whole spine around. So leave the pelvis in place, just move the leg in both directions. Use your abdominals to hold the whole torso steady. And then relax your neck. Two more of these. And then bringing your legs together. Now, right hand on the floor, both feet reach a little longer. Think of abdominals really holding you, and then legs squeeze together and both lift up off the floor, and then back down. I push a little bit with this right hand, reach through both legs, especially the underneath leg, to lift both legs up and lower. Reach up. Try not to do it from your neck and shoulders. One more time. And lower down. And then pushing with this hand up to sitting. Over to the other side. Slide out on the right side. Feet forward towards the front of your mat. Pelvis lined up with the spine. A little bit of break in this hip joint right here. Top leg a little lifted. Left hand pressing a little into the floor. And you go forward and back, holding from your belly. As the leg moves back and forth, not moving your pelvis. And I can think of this right rib coming off the floor, right waist a little lifted. Inhale, exhale. Once more. And legs come back together. I'm going to use this left hand a little bit more. Press it down as both legs come up, then lower down. And both legs up, lower, and two more. Lower down. Pushing with your hand to come up to sitting. And then let's see what Scott has to offer. Usually he starts standing, so you might stand up, but every now and then he starts on the floor. So you might just stay where you are.
Floor or standing? Floor or standing? Floor. Just to mix it up a little bit. So I really like that approach to what we in yoga would call upward facing dog pose. So let's revisit that. As you did before, starting on your hands and knees, and then rounding your spine up toward the ceiling, navel to the ceiling. Let your chest soften and let your chest move up toward the ceiling. And then curl the back of your head toward your tail. So whole spine in flexion. And then keeping your spine in flexion, begin to bring your pelvis forward. So then the fronts of your hips start to open up. So keep that spine flexion a little longer, and then let that ripple go up your spine. And then chin to chest, and the reverse. All the way back, full circle, how you began. Spine flexion, lumbar flexion, thoracic flexion, cervical flexion, maintaining whole spine and flexion. Create more openness in the fronts of your hips. You can see it with your eyeballs. And then ripple up your spine and ripple down your spine. Initiate with chin to chest, neck flexion, upper back flexion, lower back flexion, and culminating in hip flexion. So now turn your toes under, take your hips up. Let's take a few breaths here, a little slower, a little deeper breathing. Now the instructions I'm going to say are going to be mirror image. So in a moment, step your right foot forward, and I'm going to step my left foot forward, and then turn toward your screen. For me, I'm turning toward the camera. And then roll your spine up, 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 up. Hey, everybody. Left foot in, right foot out. Match movement to breath. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straight. Bend, straighten. Exhale, inhale. And back to the front. Right foot in, left foot out. Get a sense of the rhythm of your breath. Match the movement to that rhythm. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So does the movement precede the breath? Or does the breath precede the movement? For now, let's have the breath split second precede the movement to put the primacy, the focus on the breath. The next time that knee is straight, turning back to the front, and then stepping your feet together. So continuing with that cognizance of your breath, little longer, little deeper than normal. Now, once again, letting breath determine the rhythm of the movement. Exhale, arms to the side up. Inhale, arms to the side down. Building on what you did on the floor, exhale up. Inhale down. One more. And bring your hands to your hips. Take your left foot back. Take a quick peek, check to make sure that both feet point straight ahead. And then lift your left heel up to propel forward. Descend that left heel down to draw back. Forward, backward. Back knee more or less straight. Front knee responding. As you go forward, a soft bend. As you go back, more or less straight. Forward, back. Now the next time your back heel is lifted, let's pause there. And all that great work you did on your side, remember how part of the work was about opening the front of the hip? We're going to build upon that. Keep your pelvis lifting. As you telescope your left heel back and down, until that heel makes contact. And check to make sure you haven't arched your lower back. Check in to see that left knee is more or less straight. And that front knee has a soft bend. Maintaining all that as you bring your arms forward, as you sweep them up, and breathe. And then stepping back to standing. Second side. Begin with hands on your hips. Then take your right foot back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Remember some of the key points. Both feet pointing ahead, pointing straight forward. Throughout the range of motion, the back leg stays straight, whether heel up or heel down. Front knee adapts, bends, and then straightens, bends, and straightens. The next time that back heel is lifted, let's pause there. Recharge the lift in the front of your pelvis and keep that lift. And now reach your right heel back and down. Now, because of tight hip flexors, a lot of people, to get the heel on the ground, arch their lower back. Keep the lift in the front of your pelvis to prevent your back from arching. And both arms forward, forward and up, and breathe. And then back to standing. And step your feet wide apart. From your hip sockets, turn both legs out. See how your feet point a little bit out? Make sure your knees track with your feet. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So the whole time, thighs stay in exo rotation as you bend and as you straighten. Bend and straighten. The next time your knees are bent, pause there. Then take both heels up, a couple inches up. And then slowly descend your left heel down. Touch that heel to the floor and lift it right back up where it started. Your other heel. Slowly, smoothly descend it down. Touch, lift. And now both heels. Slowly descending. Make contact. Settle into contact. And then lift up and bring your feet back together. So let's put a few of these movements together. Breathing a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. Use the depth of the inhale to broaden your back. Exhale, arms to the side up. Inhale, roll your spine down. So whether it's hands to shins or fingertips on the floor, your choice. A few moments here, let your head hang. And then see if you can keep this length in your neck as you reach the crown of your head forward. And the idea here is to mobilize between your shoulder blades. Then stepping your feet back. We've been here already today. Head down dog. Let the weight of your head hang to the floor. And then do you see that wall back there behind you? Use your leg muscles to pull your butt toward that wall, to lengthen your spine, to release your shoulders, and then press your whole hand into the floor. Fingers, roots of the fingers, as much weight on the thumb side of your hands as there is on the little finger side. And then from head down dog, coming down to your knees, all the way down to your belly. Hands next to your ribs. Reach your toes back behind you. Stretch the crown of your head forward in front of you. And then something we don't do every week in half and half. Bring your two hands forward in front of you. And placing your hands a little bit wider than your shoulder and starting with your elbows a little bit bent and a little bit lifted up off the floor. Then to help lift your head and chest, press your hands into the floor. Now notice as you lift up, your elbows spontaneously straighten. Then to take any pressure out of your lower back, press your hands more into the floor. And then pull your chest forward with your hands. You feel how your upper back muscles activate? We'll take a few more breaths here. And then come on down, hand on top of hand, forehead on your hands. And let the full weight of your rib cage sink into the floor. And then maybe you can feel how much pressure there is on your chest. So then when you take a deep inhale, you feel how the breath goes into your back ribs. So chest heavy into the floor, keep it heavy. Inhale deeply. Couple more breaths. And then back to both arms forward. Both elbows a little bit lifted. Both elbows a little bit bent. And then press your hands down to lift your head, to lift your chest. In my grandmother's house, she had fly paper up. So imagine the floor was sticky like fly paper. Your hands were stuck where they are. And then pull your hands toward your chest to pull your chest and chin forward and upward. Deep breathing. Now we have magic fly paper. Now you can release your hands as you come down, hand on top of hand, forehead on hands. Your chest rests heavily into the floor. And to open your upper back, breathe deeply. All right, then releasing your hands, replace them by your armpits. Push up to hands and knees. And then in hands and knees, full circle what you've done now a few times. Spine flexion. Back of your head curls toward your tailbone. Tailbone curls toward the back of your head. And keep your spine in that flexion as you move your pelvis forward, opening the fronts of your hips. And then unfold your spine. And then from spine top to bottom, chin to chest, neck flexion, cervical flexion, lumbar flexion, and back to head down dog. And then come on down to your knees and to seated. So in seated, knees bent, feet flat upon the floor. And begin with bring your left foot forward. Remember, I'm mirror image of you all. Left foot forward, left arm comes across, right hand behind. And breathe. Let the breath do the heavy lifting. And then back to the middle. And switch it up. Now right foot forward, right arm comes across, gives a hug, left hand behind. And back to the middle. First side again, left foot forward, left arm across, right hand back. So what did I mean by let the breathing do the heavy lifting? Well, many times when people do mobility work, they push to make the biggest possible movement and then they can barely breathe. So make the movement, make the twist until you just bump into resistance. Don't push too hard into the quote unquote stretch. Now breathe. And let the natural organic movements of breath tease apart any of the adhesions. Soften up any of the restrictions. So all the stretch does is takes us to that inflection point of elasticity. And let the breathing loosen things up. And back in toward the middle. Switch it up, second side. and let the breathing do the heavy lifting. Back in toward the middle, and then onto your back. So on your back, knees bent, feet flat upon the floor. And you can probably see this one coming. Shoulder bridge. We're going to inhale, exhale to roll up, and then inhale, exhale to roll down. Remember that serpentine movement of the spine that you made a few times? So similar idea here. Lower back presses into the floor, and then lift your vertebra up off the floor one at a time. Couple more. All right, so next time your pelvis is down, let's do a guided relaxation. So with your legs, you could leave them knees bent, feet on the floor if you'd like. When I do that, I like to lean knee into knee, and then I can relax more deeply. If it's more comfortable, feel free to outstretch your legs. Whether your knees are bent or straight, let your eyes close and feel the floor beneath you supporting your body, supporting your feet and your legs, your head and your arms, your shoulders, and your pelvis. Remember that imagery from single leg circles. Let the floor support your pelvis. Now back to your head. Many of us subconsciously were holding our head up as if we're going to fly into action, either fighting or flighting. So if even just for these few moments, let the full weight of your skull release into the floor. Let the full weight of your arms release into the floor. And relax your belly. So take the next few moments quietly, releasing into the floor the support of the floor. And then opening your eyes and coming up to seated. right. So you probably saw in the chat, Colette and I, we are heading out of town for a little R&R, heading to Colorado. So in the coming week, those of you who are subscribing will be doing our encore performances, some of our best of. And then for the remainder of the summer, we'll be doing encore performances of these half and half classes. We have now an extensive video library that's yours to choose from, and we'll let you have your free choice through the summer, which half and half videos you watch. We'll come back on Labor Day weekend, the day after the Labor Day weekend, and pick up with new content. So that's it. Any comments, any questions? Okay, and you can continue signing up and getting a link sent to you as well. That program will continue throughout the summer. So thank you so much.